When our recording starts.
We're live.
We're live. Okay, I'm leaving now. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. See, I have this very long PowerPoint presentation. It's like 4 slides, and only has a couple things on it I want to share with you. I'm welcome. I've had days that I can't. This is going to be hard for me because I walk and fling my arms around and do things like that. No, the thing is I have to stay by the mic because we're on Confer. So I would also like to welcome. I would like to welcome all of you, and then I would like to welcome all of you on Confer as well, and let you all know if you're calling in from home or from school or from Hawaii or from wherever you happen to be on your vacation, I hope. Maybe there are some people floating on air mattresses with their cell phones. I don't know, you know. We have Marty Atkinson, and I'm really fortunate that Marty's going to facilitate the CCC Confer portion of this because she's really good at it. And she also knows me well enough to keep me on track and tell me if I've forgotten something and tell me to shut up because my time's up and good things like that, and we're good enough friends that she can do that without me getting too angry. So I'm the Dean of Library Technology and Distance Learning at Mount Center College, which, by the way, let me show you. I had where the heck is San Jacinto, and I thought that was swearing, so I tried to take that out. But this is where San Jacinto is, if most of you don't know. It's between, I just like to tell people, it's on the 215, my office is on the 215 between Riverside and San Diego. The San Jacinto campus is on the 10 between Riverside and Palm Springs. So that kind of gives you a general idea of where we're located. We have a rather large geographical area. And how many of you, anybody here from Butte or from Saracosta? Because those two districts have really large areas as well. And I don't know, Jim, Maricosta fairly small or large for geographic? How many of you feel like you come from a large geographical area where your district covers a very wide area? And then those of you online can even comment because Marty's watching that. And she can kind of read to me what you're saying online. So if you want to say something online, type it in the chat window. Marty can grab that information and feed it to me so that she'll be you. So her voice will be your voice if you're online. If you have a large geographical area to cover, this is a really good thing to use as a justification for why you want your programs to go online. And when do you need that justification? Does anybody know? When would you have to tell somebody why you're offering programs online? I'm sorry? Yeah, the substantive change report that goes to the ACCJC. Or if you're coming out, you don't do it an SDR. I'm going to call it SDR because I took over that word. I don't know how to spell it well either. Substantive. Oh, never mind. So also, if you don't have 50% of your program, a degree or certificate program online, you don't have to do an SDR. It's when a program or degree goes more than 50% available online that you have to write one. But when they come out for accreditation, one of the things they want to know is, do you know why you're doing this? And how many of you know why you're doing it? What's your idea of why you're doing it?
Why I'm teaching online?
Why you're teaching online? Your enrollment went up. Why does your college have a program? The enrollment goes up. Okay, we were all chasing enrollments a while back. And so that was one of the reasons was chasing enrollment. Do you think you want to tell the ACCJC that you're chasing enrollments? Probably not the best reason.
Well, you can spin that.
You can spin it.
That's where the student demand is.
Yes. And yeah, but say it in a way that really explains what you're talking about demand. What does that mean? What does demand mean? You know. Yeah.
Catering to that specific population, your students, you have a lot of working students.
Yes, there you go. See, that's what it is. Make it more specific. Catering to the working population. We have a lot of students at our college. If you look at that, you can see we have a pretty big area. Some of that area is in the mountains. We have some stuff up in Idlewild. You can see that. I can't walk over there, but you can see Idlewild, where it says San Jacinto campus right above that. That's up in the hills. It takes an hour to get from the San Jacinto campus up there. Almost an hour. And on a bad day, snow, rain, sleet, wildfires, okay, it takes longer than that. So for our students to get down to campus is difficult, especially if they don't have their transportation all set up and all that kind of stuff. So that is a really good reason. What might be another reason that you would offer an online program at your college?
Yes. Well, we have an Office Professional 1 and Office Professional 2, and we're hoping that the Office Professional 1 go out and get a job as an Office Professional, and then since we hope to be fully employed, they can do the OT2 online.
So for that program, what she was saying, she has an Office Professional 1 and Office Professional 2. I'm repeating for the mic. And what you're saying is in order to do that second program, they're already on the job somewhere, and to get to you, online works well. Excellent. That's an excellent answer, and an excellent reason for that program. For when that program goes over 50%, you've got a really good reason. We have a virtual office assistant program. It's not running right now, but it runs every once in a while, and that is totally online because it's a virtual office assistant program. So, we want the students to know how to do all of that stuff online. So that's why we do that. So that's a really good reason, too. What other reasons do you have? Yeah.
Classroom space.
Classroom space. What else? Did you have the same thing?
Same. The enrollment went beyond classroom capacity.
So your facilities are restricted. You don't have enough space for the capacity of the students that you have. The number of students that you have don't have enough rooms, or you're taking down buildings, building other buildings, got to put the classes somewhere. Those things are really important to know. You can't just say because we like teaching online. It's fun. I like teaching online. I was listening to Amelita a while ago. The reason that I wanted to teach online was because it gave me access to resources that were online that I could reasonably expect my students to go to. Where my face-to-face students, not so much when I started. They might not. So for me, that was one of the reasons, the rich resources that were out there. But that isn't the reason, unless it's really critical to my program, it's not a reason that I can say to the accreditors that that's why. And that is a question that they're asking, and I just wanted to let you know that. Good place to start.
I had an interesting, it's not online teaching, I have an interesting kind of theory or, idea of how to do our program. We have a sister a campus that we have to support in another area, Hollister, which is about 20 miles from us. And we're supposed to build enrollment. We have to build enrollment on that campus. So my idea is video conferencing, either using So it's not an asynchronous. It would be a synchronous, but they would be beaming it to our main campus.
So it's providing programs at off-site locations that normally you can't do. And that's a really good reason, too. When the Accreditation Commission came recently, they asked me for a list of online classes that they could go into. They wanted us to put them into a list of courses, and we did. And they didn't go into those courses. They went into one they wanted to see that wasn't one of those, and it happened to have been a reverse hybrid. And what that is, in our way of looking at it, was we have a biology for non-science majors course, so that's fully online. And they do a kitchen lab where they send out the stuff, and the students do that kitchen lab at home. It's called a kitchen lab. We decide what's in it, and the biology instructors send that out, and they have their labs written into their course, and they have a lab assistant that helps with all that and everything, but it's completely online. We opened a center in Temecula that has no lab space. So what we did was we did all of the lecture and all of that stuff in the face-to-face component, and the lab component is online. So it's a hybrid with the lab component online. And one of our accreditors, one of the team was a biology instructor. So they didn't go into our other classes, they went into that one. Okay. And that was really an interesting thing. And they asked, why are you doing that? And when we said, we don't have a lab out there, we need to serve those people. And we actually got a lot of compliments from the team for having figured out a way to do that. So you have to start thinking about, why are we doing these programs, and be ready to answer that question for a number of reasons. That's a really important thing. One of the things you should not be using as a reason, and we just talked about this, and I was glad that you spoke to me about this, was because it costs less. Now, it might be a strategy you want to try if you want to convince somebody on your campus, but it's not a good idea to do that for a justification for an SCR or for accreditation, because it doesn't cost less. when you figure it out, I don't know, has anybody done a TCO, cost of ownership? I asked this with DE coordinators too. Cost of ownership for online versus face-to-face. Somebody's got to do that. Some of you looking for a dissertation topic, somebody's got to do that. We haven't done that, but you know, when I look at it, think about how much your course management system costs. How much does it cost to develop classes? What about those people who are doing the technical support? The servers that those things are on, making sure you've got your counseling, your financial aid, all that stuff online. That costs some money. And if you're really doing it right, you should be spending more money on the development piece than we don't. I mean, that's really where it falls off for most of us, is that development piece. But it really doesn't cost less. I don't think it costs more either. You know, I think long term, you're going to see a wash, you know. But it's something we need to think about. Yes.
Well, and I think long term, as you're saying, it will be more than a wash or less than a wash. It will be more cost effective. Ultimately,
right. Ultimately, it will.
Clean all of the
right.
for face-to-face students as well.
As well, and
right.
so it does, and that's a really good point. And it also becomes more cost effective once you have something that's been developed really well, because then all you're doing is revising. Except that how many of you have been teaching online for more than 5 years? And have you done major revisions over those 5 years? And have those major revisions required you to get software or to change your computer or to change your whole infrastructure within your personal teaching situation? Probably has. So, you know, there's that to figure into that too. That's why I'd love someone to do a TCO. I'm not going to do it. Okay? I'm going to retire in a couple of years. I'm not going to do it. But if one of you guys does do that, please let me know. All right. So the idea of this session was to talk to you just like this and talk about what you're doing and what we're doing and questions, but talk to you about how does a program get started? How does a DE program develop and get started? And on Wednesday, the DE coordinators met, and we had 50 DE coordinators and managers in a pre-conference session all day, which was really pretty amazing. And one of the things we talked about, well, what is a DE program, and is it a program? Is it a program? Is Distance Ed at your college considered a program? Or is it housed in each of the departments and there's really no oversight from any one person who really is about DE? It's like the Dean of Math Science does the DE for Math Science, and the Dean of Humanities does the DE for the Humanities. Do you have someone like me, for example, that there's only one of me, but do you have someone like me that kind of oversees the general stuff that's going on with Distance Ed? You know, how many of you do have someone that's really doing that and is making sure that all the stuff is happening that should be happening? Jim's going, I don't know for sure, it's kind of you. And your faculty.
Right.
It's kind of you and your faculty. How many can say it's kind of me and I'm faculty? Yeah, okay. DE coordinators. How many of you say there's nobody that's specific? All the deans do it. Okay? Or none of the deans do it. That was my next thing. None of the deans do it. And why? Because they don't know.
Well, they don't even believe in it.
Yeah, and you know what changes that? I think what changes that is you need some student testimonials that will change that. And I would go there and ask the students what they need. So I would say that, and I think that the other thing that changes it is really showing from schools that are close to you, that are doing it well, and that are really into it, who their student population is. Find out who they're reaching. Go to the nearest college who's doing DE successfully. Find out who they're reaching. Get that data. I just hate the term data-driven decisions. You know, I come from an art discipline, multimedia, you know, art and technology discipline. My background is psychology. So when you say data-driven, I have some, you know, stats in psychology are one thing, but the art business is not data-driven. And so when I hear that, I kind of cringe. But in this particular case, if you can show what's going on at other colleges in your area and who they're representing, and somehow you can get that information in front of someone who has a heart, not just a pulse, but a heart, then you might be able to, you know, turn the tide of that thinking.
You can have a brain.
Yeah. I'm not going to. She said you need to have a brain and courage for those of you at home, and we'll delete that from this presentation. You need a champion. you definitely need a champion. And the person who is the champion has to have influence. All right. So it has to be someone who does have a pulse and a brain and is probably a good sense of humor, and someone who is willing to go out of their way to serve on a number of committees that are really critical. And what are those committees, do you think, that are really critical to serve on? Budget committee. What else? Curriculum. Okay, curriculum I would say first. Number one, think in your head, does your curriculum committee know or understand distance ed? Okay, I'm not going to ask you because that's an embarrassing question to have to answer. So I'm not going to ask you that. Do they? If they do not, find your champion who likes distance education and who will get on the curriculum committee. And that I would do first. Okay. What's really wonderful right now at our college is probably 90% of the people on the curriculum committee have taught online. That's big. It didn't start that way. I was it. All right. But I was the curriculum chair. Okay, so I could steer the conversation. I was also the chair of the Educational Technology Committee. So I was the champion. I was in both of those places bringing stuff forward, talking about it a lot. You got to talk to people about it. You know, you have to talk to everybody about it. And change that notion and change the culture, and it'll happen very slowly. The other thing you need to do is get into your Senate. If you're not a senator, or make close friends with your academic Senate president, like it or not. Okay? I don't like him. You've got to make friends with your academic Senate president because DE done well requires the Senate to be the purveyors of quality, which is what the Senate is about. And so you can always go to the Senate and say, we need to work on quality in this way, and no one's going to argue with you. Because you're not going to argue against quality. Who will argue against it? Nobody will. So, you know, except for, I don't know, maybe someone who's just a grouch might. But otherwise...
Well, I believe things like quality is a nice way of saying standardization. That's where you get...
That's really tough. And what Jim said is when faculty say that quality is a nice way to say standardization. And I was one of those people that was totally against standardization. Here's how our program started. I want to try to weave this in as we go. We have, in a normal year, this is not a normal year, but in a normal year we have 450 sections online in a semester, and that's 17% of our FTE. How many of you have about 5% or less of your FTE online? Okay, you're sort of in the beginning. You have a lot of room to work, and you have a lot of opportunity, actually. Over 5 to 10% of your FTE. Over 15% of your FTE online. Okay, so you see now, some of you are in the middle of that. Some of you don't know. I don't know how much. Find out. It's an important thing to know. If you're in that situation, you're in a development mode. If you're not, and if you're in that early stage, you are, or you should be. If you're not, you probably have some things that need to change. That idea of quality, I was really against the standardization because I was an academic Senate, academic freedom person, and I really just thought, stay out of my classroom and let me teach the way I know how to teach, and don't tell me how to do it. I had a website. My course was run off of a website, and they were going to get us a course management system. And I'm going, no, I like my website. I don't want to take the time. I don't want to do the work. I like my website. I'm doing great. Just leave me alone. And I had a friend who was also doing that. No, I don't either. Well, the dean at the time, who was trying to encourage us, said, we're going to Santa Barbara. We're going to spend the night in Santa Barbara. You want to go? Yeah, I'll go to Santa Barbara. Okay, what are we doing? We're going to be looking at a variety of course management systems. And in the early days, the chancellor's office set that up for us. So we could go to, they had it at Santa Barbara, we could see, there was WebCT, Blackboard, eCollege, I think that was it. I think those are the three. And so we went and looked at those. And what was interesting was she took those of us who were vociferous about staying in the web space and took us so that we could choose the CMS. She's a very smart lady. And as we saw the CMS and what it could do, we were excited about it, and we actually came on board. Now, I worked at a college helped them with the plan, where there was a instructional designer there who was very involved in design, helping people design, and he didn't like course management systems. And I didn't understand why. I said, why don't you like them? And he said, well, they tell us how to teach. That we have to teach the way the course management system tells us how to do it. It restricts how we teach. I said, really? That's interesting. Because the way I see it, the course management system gives me a bunch of tools I can choose to use, or not. I can pick the ones I want, leave the ones I don't want, and go outside and find other things that I need, as long as I'm, right now, as long as I'm going through the course management system. And it was interesting to have that. I'm helping them plan, but I'm having that discussion with them. And I really saw the other side of the coin where someone is saying, no, it really tells us how to teach. And it sensitized me to that notion that teachers want to have control over their classroom, and they want to have control over how they teach within that course management system. However, the data that shows which classes are doing better and why is probably something that you might want to try to figure out very hard. But getting people to work together to identify for themselves, get a group of people, and I know you've got 2 course management systems at your college. They still get in the same room. Or do a survey to ask them what works. What are the best things you do in your online class? What are the things that you think works really well with students in your online class? And then publish that information. And start really honoring what they're doing. And, saying, even the person that you think is the biggest curmudgeon and the person that's in your way the most probably has something great to offer. Because they've been doing it. They have some knowledge, and if you honor that, and you say, okay, what is the one best thing that you do? We're going to collect a bunch of effective practices here. We're going to put them in a bulleted list, and everybody's going to share them. And I know that I sound really Pollyanna. I guess I am, but it's worked to do that and to figure that out. When I was very young, I worked at a K-12 school in Lake County. And we received the Apple computers that came to the schools from Apple. Everybody got one. And I was trying to figure out how to get teachers to use the computers. And at first, I didn't want it. I was like a little red hen. I did it. It was mine, and you guys didn't learn how to use it, and I'm not sharing. I'm keeping it to myself. Okay? You didn't help me learn it. You didn't help me set it up. You didn't write the grant that got me 4 more, and I'm not sharing. You have to come to me. And I realized that was a hard road. And so what I did was I took one of those computers and I put it in the staff lunchroom. And I had a friend who was a plant. And we sat down and I put her grades on a grading system in there, and people were coming in going, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, we're doing grades," and it was just a spreadsheet. I think it might have been an AppleWorks spreadsheet, as a matter of fact, that I set up. And they were all excited about wanting to do that. And then I realized that I had to give it away. And now I had to push those computers out. I had to give it away. And I learned that I can't control teachers. I can't tell them what to do. It doesn't work. I can ask them what they do. And I can work with that. But I can't tell them. I couldn't tell them as a teacher. I certainly can't tell them as a dean. That's really scary, but I can. So what I have to do is I have to work with them to give them the power to choose for themselves, and I have to honor what they're doing. And so asking them, to do, I want to know what your best practices are. Just tell me, and let's do a really subjective kind of survey with anecdotal data. We're going to find out what you do. And then we're going to put that into an effective practices piece that we're going to share with everybody. Let's bring everybody together. The kind of thing we did in that PE retreat the other day, where you bring everybody together and you don't do a presentation. You have them work in groups on a topic, and you give them something like regular effective contact. This group is regular effective contact, and you have them decide what that is, what they know about it, what they don't know about it, and then they report out what that is. And I'll tell you what, I take them and put them in groups randomly so they don't get to choose who they sit with. All right. And then let them report out. Have another group working on retention, strategies for retention. and have another group working on something else that is a topic you want to get at, and then let them report out. And what's happening is you're not telling them anymore. You're not telling them. You're leading them pretty well, but you're not telling them. And it makes a huge difference. And for me, it was letting go of my wanting to control, which I still do. I mean, I'm a dean now. Been that way for 6 years. It sure would be easy if I could just walk up to you and say, you are going to do this. Because you have to. Yeah. Now, there are strategies you can use that would get people to do the things you need. Compliance is a huge lever. And there's lots and lots of compliance garbage that we have to deal with. And I don't, some of it's garbage, some of it's not. But there's a lot of compliance issues that we have to deal with. Use that to get people on board, and then ask them what are the strategies we need to meet these compliance rules. Regular effective contact is one of those, and it's in Title V. It's our regulation, but it's also a state reg. Okay, so it's also in the Department of Ed. They're telling us that we have to do regular effective contact, and they're calling it regular substantive, what is it, substantive interaction, or engagement. That language is being used, the same thing. So if your faculty is not doing that, there are a couple of things. One is they could be doing the correspondence course, which has no regular effective contact. If the instructor is not initiating contact regularly with the students, either discussion forums, blogs, things like that, then you need to be careful because you could be doing a correspondence course, in which case you don't get the same amount of money for that. So you have to be really careful. So compliance is a nice way to kind of get people talking about making their courses better, because most of the compliance issues have to do with effective practices. I mean, you can pull them all together for that. And I have a compliance review I'll show you in a couple minutes that we did in order for me to, I wanted to get into, don't tell my folks at home, you guys aren't listening to me, are you? There's nobody from MSJC out there, I hope. I wanted to be able to check their classes, to go through their classes. And the way that I could do it was through a compliance review, and I had them do a self-review. And I'll show that to you in a few minutes. And then I was able to talk to them, along with our DE coordinators. We were able to talk to them about their needs. And we asked them, what do you need help with at the end of that survey? And they said things like, I need captioning done. I need to know how to do this. Or I'm worried about this. And I didn't have to point it out. And so then we contacted them and helped them with that. So that was a really, just a really nice way of doing it. It helps if you come from faculty. It really does help if you come from faculty and you're in my position, because I know what it feels like, and I'm willing to let go of some of that. And I do believe that faculty want to do right by their students. And so that's probably what you have to do first. All right. What I have for you is a very weird handout. And I want to show you a website very quickly. I have my one-page wonder that I decided to put all the links on for you. And it's right on the front of your handout. And Marty, I think you can put that, that's the one that ends in tabs that you can put on the, Marty's going to put it in the chat window so you can take a look at this website on your own. And there are a lot of links on the left side. The first one is, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they are. The first one is an effective practices website that Michelle Sikansky-Barak and I started putting together when we were teaching Introduction to Online Teaching and Learning for the At One Institute. And we had all this stuff and we didn't have a place to put it, so now we have this website. Most of the links work. I try to go in and check it every once in a while, but some of it's older material, but a lot of it's really good stuff. So you can take a look at that. The planning piece from that is all about the compliance policies and stuff that you have to know. And it's not under policies, it's under planning, because the way I talk about policies is more of an individual or institutional level and not what you have to do for compliance. That second one, quality development handout, that's this thing that you've got. All right, and then I'll talk to you about the rest of them as we go forward, but if I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. And down at the bottom, there's a blog. And so at the bottom of that site, there's a blog that you guys can use after this presentation is over to talk to each other or talk to me. And if there's a new topic you want to add to the blog, you can just email me and I'll add it, or put it in a comment and I'll add it. And we'll just see how we can get this blog going a little bit and kind of keep in touch with each other. So I wanted to point that out to you. And if you're looking at the handout, and I'm not going to open it right here, but for those of you who are online, Marty's put the link in the chat window, and you should probably open the handout so that you can take a look at it. I went to my print shop on Monday to pick it up, and it was backwards. And they had punched holes in it and stapled it backwards. And I don't know how that happened. I gave them a PDF, but I didn't put page numbers on it. Maybe that's what they needed. I'm not real sure. But it was backwards, and it's in color, and there's a lot of pages, and they asked me if I wanted to do it over, and I said, no, never mind. It's okay, you guys can figure it out. So I didn't send it to her that way, but I did have them punch the other side. You can put it somewhere. So that's why it's got hole punched on both sides. I just thought it was kind of nice little design element. But anyhow, this is a guide, and shouldn't be used for your complete planning. The first 2 pages of this, the one that says Distance Ed Program Development Guide. I found that there were a lot of people asking me to help them plan their DE programs in a lot of different ways, and there were some folks that actually wanted me to help them do a DE plan. Melissa's in here. I don't know, has that plan been working for you?
It has, we keep updating it and adding to it as things change. So yeah, and it's been a model for our
Nice.
Oh, we really like that.
Okay. And Melissa is from Columbia College, and she said, yes, it did help. Just for those of you online, know that it did. And, you know, that was an amazing process that we went through. And I think I came up there 6 times, maybe, I don't know, quite a few times. And sat with you and with your faculty with a guide that I had put together that's very similar to this one, a little more complete probably than this one, but a guide that we went through and we filled in what kinds of things they wanted to do. And I worked with them in order to do that. And they did it with a couple of other colleges too. And out of that is this kind of a worksheet that I now use with people who ask me these questions. And the worksheet goes from the institutional to the personal and to the individual. So as you kind of go through it, these are the questions you have to think about. Did we do that when we were designing our distance ed program? No, because we didn't design our distance ed program. It grew like, you know, the Winchester Mystery House or something. You know, if you're young and you build a house and or you buy a house that's got 1 bedroom and then you start having kids and then you add bedrooms to that house, you end up with a house that maybe isn't very organized. Because the idea of having 5 bedrooms was never thought about when the house was built. The house was built with 1 bedroom, all laid out for 1 bedroom. And now you've added 5 on, and maybe you converted the garage and, you know, the den and a couple other things. And now the house is really not very functional. It's a house, people live in it, but, you know, it could have been designed a lot better had you been able to do it from scratch. So same thing with the DE program. Many of us started with, and think about how many courses did your program start with? Did your DE work start with? You know, does anybody want to tell me how many did DE program start with? Kathy, do you know how many years started with? 5. Anybody else have a different number? 2. Yeah. 2.
When I first started with the Columbia College, there was 1 person, 1 class.
1. Trust me, all of you started with 1. Okay, you started with 1. All right. How many of you don't have any distance ed in your college? Good. Okay, because that's why you're here. You know, hopefully you're interested in it. But there are people who don't. Okay. Do you need to? No. And you may want to go through this and rethink what you're doing. Okay, you may want to go through it and say, you know what, we're just not willing to put all that in, or we can't put all that energy in. And in that case, you want to keep things small, grow it very slowly until you can bring all of that stuff to bear on the program, because you're going to have a lot of problems if you don't. Alfred E. Newman in like 1969, I think, in Mad Magazine, I used to read that when I was a kid. I think that's probably what's wrong with me. But
I like Mad.
You did. Okay, I like it too. Well, that explains a lot, Marnie. But what he said was, learn from the mistakes of others because you never live long enough to make them all yourself. Okay, and what happens with the way our programs grow is you probably all experience this, is we start with one, we start with a couple, we add more, some administrator says, more enrollments please, let's add more. Our Vice President of Instruction at a point when we were trying to grow our enrollments gave us a lot of money for development, and what he did was he gave us money for, if you had a course, and I was in your discipline, we wanted to add sections, and we wanted to do it in a very quick way, very fast, from one semester to another. And we wanted to add sections of the same course. You built your course all by yourself, nobody paid for you to do it, it's your course. So what we did was we pay you $500, and we'd pay your colleague $1,000, and the two of you would take your course, migrate it over, and then your colleague would work on it and develop it and offer it. And that's how we increase sections. Okay? And as you're doing that kind of stuff, what happens is automatically, all of a sudden your program goes boom, and explodes into something very major, and you didn't expect that to happen. And it's because of the administration wants to, add enrollment or something, like that. And you haven't put things in place, and you have problems. And I can honestly say that just about every policy and procedure we have in distance education came from a problem. Okay, we had a problem. When I took this job, a friend of mine was a dean, Rick, and he knows the story, so it's okay. Rick, I don't think you're online, but that's all right. He said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're a dean now because I want to go into these online classes and see what's going on." And I went, no, you're not doing that. And he said, "Yeah, but I think there are problems." And I said, "Okay, what problems in which class?" And so he picked one, and he said, "This problem in this class." And I said, "All right, let's call the instructor and tell him we have to go in and check the course because we think this problem is happening in your class." He goes, "Well, I can't get a hold of the instructor. That's the problem." And I said, "Okay, let's email the instructor and call him and leave a message and say, we're going to be in your class next Friday or in 5 minutes, and you'll see me in there. I'll be in there as an instructor, and you'll see me there." And so he said, "Okay," so that's what we did. And I decided at that moment we needed a procedure, that the administration needed that written down, and it needed to go to the Senate and to the union, and we needed to tell them this is what we're doing and this is why, and that it's not an evaluation. Because if you see someone, if you're a dean, your brain's wired that way, or forced to be wired that way, and you look outside and you see students standing outside a door, all lined up, and the class is supposed to be in session, you go over. How many of you are administrators? Let's raise your hand like this, so I can see. And you go over and you look to see, right, what's going on? Why are they standing in front of the door? That's your responsibility. Or someone comes in and says, "There's a guy in that class and he's using a camera to take pictures of the girl's skirts sitting next to him." You race over to that class and you go in and you deal with that because that's your responsibility. When you do that, when I come into the room of your classroom, I come into your classroom, you see me. I'm there. You know it. You know you have an administrator in your room, in your classroom. When I go into an online class, if I haven't told you I'm coming, you don't see me. You're not looking for me. You might notice if you're watching stats or you're doing whatever, but you probably wouldn't notice. All right, and I just thought that was creepy. And I wouldn't let any administrator do that. And that's because I came from faculty. I thought it was creepy. I was like, no, I don't want. Were you guys doing that before I got this job? How many of you were in my class and I didn't know it? No. So we did a procedure. We did a real simple one that said, if we have a reasonable notion that we need to go into your class for something, we will contact you and let you know. This does not constitute an evaluation, although an evaluation process may be precipitated by the visit. All right. And we gave that to the union, and the union said, "No, we don't want you to do this." And I said, "Okay, do you want us just to come in without your knowing? This protects you." And they went, oh yeah, we want that. Okay, and so we did. That's how your policies happen. You know, we ran up against this guy who wanted, good-hearted guy who wanted to go into class. I'm saying no. We came up with a way to deal with that. All right. Another one we came up with that was really helpful is the regular effective contact policy, and that came out of reading the regulations and interpreting them, that everybody had to have regular effective contact in their courses by Title V regs, and people were coming to the curriculum committee with the course, with the addenda for the course outline. You know, to put the second approval, you have to do separate approval for distance ed classes, and so we came with those. And there was this thing about you had to describe regular effective contact. Nobody knew what that was. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You need to change things every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, hello. It's not up there, but okay. Not up there. I'm sorry. I'm yakking too much here. There we go. So we decided that rather than try to put it in the addendum form, the Educational Technology Committee would write what we thought it was. And as a committee of faculty, we wrote what we thought it was and what it should be. And it took a while. It was painful. It was very difficult to write. And it's in here. I think it's probably one of the next pages in here. It was very difficult to write. And it is being revised now, although it has served us well since 2004. Okay. And it served some of you picked it up and used it too. But now when someone comes to the curriculum committee and they don't know what regular effective contact is, we give it to them. And it describes what it is. That came out of a need. We had a need to describe it, so we created a policy to do that. So what this is, if you look on the second page of this first crazy document that's backwards, okay. If you look at the second page, it says policy development. Those are all of the policies that we have developed over time. One by one, in a very painful way, we developed all those. And you need them too. Okay, you need them. So it's a good inventory, and it says policy development, and it starts with standard institutional policies, shared governance. What should shared governance be involved in? What should the bargaining unit be involved in? And it says Senate after it's both bargaining unit and Senate. And then individual course policies developed by the instructor. Some of these are developed by the instructor, but some of them are now standard in our institution, and we're working on a dot policy right now for online. So there are things there that is individual to the instructor, but we really want some of that stuff standardized. Standardizing this helps teachers because they don't have to write it. We're moving from this to a standard course syllabus.
Kat?
Yes.
Laura online wants to know if all of this is on your website.
It's on this website right here. It's on that website that Marty gave you the link to, and it's the quality development handout. And it's the beginning pages of it. And those people who are online are lucky because it's in the right order. But those policies are what you need, and some of them will be institutionalized because it makes sense to do that. And so now we're doing a standard course syllabus, a standardized one for a group of people who are redesigning their courses right now. I've got a design project going on with some instructional designers who are part-time faculty, by the way, who are good at instructional design, and we're paying them hourly to work with a group of teachers, and they're going to design their own standard syllabus with these elements in it, and then the stuff that's specific to your course you put in. So you don't have to write the, acceptable use policy, go here and do that, and you don't have to put those things in for students, drop policy and stuff. It's already there, and then as a teacher you go in and add the stuff you want and put in the things that are specific to your class. So standardization, which I was so against, I'm now starting to see as being important. I used to think that students don't really care about it, and we're finding the research is showing that they do. And that the one thing that they have a problem with, there's two things really, but the major one initially is they can't find their way around in a class. They don't know what to do first. They don't know what to do after that. They're really not sure how to get through a class. So if you can start with, at least they know that every syllabus is going to have these elements in it, then the elements could all be different, but they'll know where to go look for that. We're trying to talk people into doing a Start Here button. We use Blackboard, so we're trying to get them to have a Start Here button so they know exactly where to start. After that, you guys can do what you need to do, but at least have that. There's also we're going to do all of our resources in one location, and that we got from Pasadena has a really nice resource piece to all of their course shelves, which has the library, the tutoring center, all that stuff. Teacher doesn't have to do the links, it's all there. Those kinds of standardizations are good. Everybody teaches their own way. The courses are all going to be different, and they should be. And when students say, why are they different, it's because, don't you think the teachers are different? And isn't that a good thing? So there's a balance, all right? So those policies should help you. There's another inventory on this that is about, that starts with DE support. I'm going backwards now. Oh, maybe that's what the guy thought I was going to do at the print shop. So I'm going to go backwards with this thing. DE support and resource inventory. That's an institutional thing. Okay. And it's sort of a wish list for some. We don't have all of these things. Believe me, we don't have all of them. But I would ask you, if I was going to come and work with you on a plan, which of these things you do have. Because those things have to be considered when you're starting to really pull your program together. When you're starting to make it a functional program and not so organic and going in 9,000 different directions, but really starting to pull it together. Those are the things you want to be working toward. Where are we right now? We're trying to hire instructional designers full time. Yeah, right. We're going to have to cut $2.5 million out of our budget, and we're going to hire instructional designers. We're trying to figure out how to be entrepreneurial about that, and we're working with some people who are trying to help us establish our international students program. And through that, if we can bring in some revenue through that, it does two things. It brings revenue in that we can spend on our program for all of our students, and it also puts some diversity in our classes that are really isolated. We're in a community that's not very diverse, and so it would really be helpful in that way as well. So we've got buy-in from the administration of me to take all the money that comes in from any out-of-state or international students that are online and put it in a fund that goes back into our DE program to help with the design and the structure of the program. And we're lucky in that way. And I think here, with the president that's here at Evergreen, I think he probably could do that as well. I'm just so encouraged by what he was saying this morning that probably Evergreen folks could do that too. So use this guide as kind of a roadmap as to what you need, what you might want to have. The first thing you absolutely have to do is you have to determine what you're going to call your classes. And I would ask you, what is an online class at your college? And would anybody like to give me a definition of, when you tell a student they're in an online class, a fully online class, what is that at your college? Yes?
1209, we changed our local definition. Online is completely online. Anything with an orientation meeting or anything on campus is hybrid.
Yeah. So online is fully online, and simply put, you don't have to come to the campus for anything. Anything. Very clear. Now, yeah, but proctoring can happen anywhere, We heard about state authorization. That's a little bit of an issue. If you're doing proctoring on site in another state, might be a problem. Yeah, but, I heard from Russ yesterday not to sweat those little things yet. So, we'll deal with those as they come up, and we'll definitely have some information for you from the state level as we go forward with that stuff. But online, when you tell a student it's online, their course is online, and then they find out they have to come to campus for an orientation, they're upset with you. As well they should be. Does somebody else have a different definition of online? Fully online.
Our college, our distance ed classes could be anything from fully online to you have to come to campus 3 times during the semester.
Right, but what do you call fully online?
We call it all distance ed.
So you don't have a distinction between hybrid and fully online?
As faculty, we do this. For what the students see, it's all called distance ed. So what we do is in the course schedule, we are required to say when and if the students have to come online for this particular.
For each, and how many courses do you have online? See where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. If it's too big, that's too hard.
Yeah.
So, we have little icons now, and that takes up a lot less space in the schedule, so it just makes more sense. for if your program's big. If it's little, that's where we went to. We went from putting it everywhere and exactly what it was to now, it's spelled out. Hybrid is any time you have to come to campus for any reason. Proctored test. Now, that's not the state definition of hybrid. The state doesn't really have a definition of hybrid. People used to think it was 50% or more online. That's a fallacy. That is not true. Okay, that is not true. Go back and read the language, 2008. It says any time you offer instruction in lieu of face-to-face. Anytime. 5 minutes, 3 hours, anytime. Now, that doesn't mean you use stuff in your classes online. No, as long as your class meets for all of its hours face-to-face, you're okay. That's not a distance ed class. Okay, but if you substitute distance learning for any time that the course would meet face-to-face, and you planned it that way, it's not somebody that sick, okay, then that's a distance ed course. And hybrid is any time that you're not doing fully online. Okay, are we going to have to do it again? Yeah.
I think there's another perceptual issue with that 50% that I found and read with, and that is if students hear a hybrid class is 50% face-to-face, 50% online, and they have 1 hour of face-to-face, which is they have 1 hour of face-to-face each week. How much time do they anticipate they're spending online? 1 hour.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so you really, that's why you really shouldn't define it that way.
Right.
And you've got to, it's truth in advertising to your students. If it's a hybrid, they know that they have to come to campus, and then you have to put that in the schedule when they come to campus. Okay. And now we have a check-in policy. We used to have a check-in policy for our fully online, where students had to go to a discussion board in the class, check in 5 days before or 2 days into the course. If they didn't check in by the end of the second day, and I'm going fast because I'm running out of time, by the end of the second day, then we could drop them and add from the wait list, right? Now we're doing that for our hybrids too. So even if your hybrid class has 2 meetings during the semester, you still have to have a check-in during that beginning time. The student has to check in, even if they're not going. You're going to start the class when they meet next week, or you're going to start it online, or whatever it is. You have to have the check-in, and you have to say when the students in that announcement in your shell when the students are supposed to be on campus, what your expectation is from 5 days before the class starts. Okay. Now we also have it in the schedule so they can see before they enroll. But that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
If we have a class, let's say some class that requires 2 on-campus exams, that's the only time we have to be on campus, does that consider have to be a hybrid?
No, it doesn't. It's up to you. At our school, it would be. At your school, it would be. It would be a hybrid because we are telling students this is fully online and this is hybrid. There's nothing else. Yeah, you're either doing that or you're face-to-face. And that's real clear to students. So it's totally up to you. These are our definitions. What's in here is our definitions. And I put them in there so you have an example.
And state doesn't have definitions?
Pardon?
There's no state definition?
No, they define DE.
That's it.
Yeah, they define DE. It defines DE as any time you replace in class time. Okay, that's defined as DE. So, yeah.
Michelle, I was wondering if you were aware of any sort of research as far as how distance education is successful in controlling for certain variables like age and kind of students.
I don't anymore. I did a lot of research on that, but it's old. I did it a long time ago. I'm not doing it now. What I do now is I take a look at the Chancellor's Office Data Mart, and I'm looking. We have our own analytics, so we're now looking at what's working and what isn't working, and we're actually addressing disciplines. Our math faculty decided that they didn't want any of their courses online anymore.
I kind of agree with that.
Right, but we offer a full degree. We have several of them fully online, and there are students in that pipeline, and they have to have math. So we have to figure that out. And so my question was why? Because their retention and success is lower than the rest of our disciplines, so they just want to pull them. And it's just, because we have to cut sections too, and it's easy, like just pull them. But we're talking to them about why. And I'm working with 2 faculty who are really interested in finding out why. They don't necessarily buy into online, but they want to find out why. They're kind of intrigued by that. And we're really doing some heavy-duty intervention in their design process to really focus on success and retention. We're going to see what happens. You know. Okay, thank you. So we're going to see what happens with that, and I'll let you know. I mean, you know, I'm out there on the DE listserv, and I'll let you know what we find out about that. But, you know, there's just all kinds of stuff going on like that, and I'm running all the time. I feel like I'm running all the time. I have an extra pair of shoes in my bag, by the way, but I don't have too much time. I want to kind of go through with here so you know why I put them here. There's a chart in here of of those policies that should be in the syllabus. These are the policies that should be in the syllabus. Most of them, I think might be some stragglers that are outside of that. But this should be in the syllabus, and they're samples. So you can that list that I gave you can kind of go through, and I've actually put some samples and a little bit of description in there. So just to give you some idea, you can do your own inventory. You're all going to be different. Your definitions are all different. But you really need to think about how can you harness that so everybody's speaking the same language at your college so that the students know what you're talking about when you're talking to them about a hybrid versus an online class. Regardless of what the Title V regulations say, because that's for reporting, that's the minimum. Whatever you want to call it outside of that, you can't. I would love to see us all be the same. You know, and I think we're getting closer to that because we're starting to talk about something we talked about years ago in CVC about sharing degrees and letting students take courses from all of us to create their degree patterns. And I think in economic times we're going to see more of that discussion. And we're also more ready for that because we understand distance ed. I think as far as a system in California or anywhere, any educational system, I think ours understands distance ed better than any other. And from what I've seen in I've seen international programs, I've seen national programs. I'm enrolled in one of the Coursera classes from Stanford, which is a real interesting thing. That's working on the McDonald's model, which is getting the students to do all the work. It's very interesting. It's free, but you have to mentor somebody in the class, and that's how, so they're not. The students are. Very interesting. Anyway, there's all kinds of ways of doing distance. As we heard this morning, you're doing distance education, but our system is the strongest because we've been out there the longest, and we have a really strong, good set of regulations. And there are a lot of places that don't have that. So I think we're lucky. I've got in here also some links to some things in the website about those policies. And then I threw in some other stuff that I thought you might enjoy. There's a list of websites that we gave to the CEOs when we got to go and talk to them. And it had some good links, so I gave you that as well. And that's why you might want to download the online one if you just click to it. And there's what to look for in the curriculum process. And then frequently asked questions, which is kind of interesting. That I had to do for our deans. And they're specific to us, but it's kind of a nice thing to provide for your administration, is to do your own FAQs and then give that to the dean so that they can answer questions. The last thing that's there is an important piece of your program development, and that is training. How many of you have consistent, ongoing training for your faculty? If you don't have that, you better find it somewhere. Okay? Because if you don't have it, you can't tell them they need it. And for quality, faculty need training. We have an academy, and this is we won an award from the chancellor's office this year. And so when we did our presentation for them, this was a handout, so I included it for you. And it has some information on how to start. What it doesn't say is be consistent, keep it coming, make sure they can count on it. So what we do is we do 3-day trainings in January, and we do another one in August every year. We do a 3-day peer taught, kind of a mini conference. And it's down here on the website. There's the program schedule. It's a website that, I'll go to it real quick. This one is our last one. We're building the new one now, so it's not up there yet. But this is our last one and the things that we did. And what we ended up, these are people who came in. Now, some of them are part-time faculty for us. Some of them are full-time faculty. This person right here is a part-time online teaching faculty from Raleigh. and she flew out for the academy, and we had her do a presentation. She did her whole degree pattern online for her bachelor's degree, every bit of it, and her AA degree. And so she did this really cool thing about what students want you to do with Blackboard. And it was a really cool session that she repeated and went over really well. So we bring in our faculty to do the teaching. We give them the non-teaching rate. We pay them non-teaching rate or flex, whichever they want. Most of them take flex. So it doesn't cost a lot. We've rolled in good practices for basic skills. So we use some of our basic skills money on this. And we have also reading apprenticeship and a bunch of other stuff that now we're also offering in the academy. So now we can use our basic skills funding to help fund the academy. It's not real expensive when you start that way, and this kind of explains how to do that. And then we also use STEM money for some of this, and we use we have a Title V grant. And so we have combined all of our grant funding. We have no professional development dollars, and we use that. We are now looking for sponsorship, and Adobe sponsored us this last time because we bought into their site license. And so they sponsored us by sending trainers. We have CCC Confer come and talk to her, and Blaine and his crew will come and do a training for you, which is really great. So you can look, you look around. We brought in Michelle Pacansky Grox out of that one, and we brought in Donna Einstone out of that one. $600 a day is what it costs, plus her travel expenses. That's not very much. We were able to do that. We're using these grant funds. We're pooling those things to bring them together. So now we have a criteria that our Senate has put forward that is a recommendation for what you need to do before you teach online for us. That just happened this year. All these years we've been doing this. We finally got a criteria that you have to do before you can teach online. Now, it says from the Senate recommended, but the instructional deans who do the schedule with the department chairs and the department chairs decided that they would support that. So since we have right of assignment as deans, we will not put anyone in an online class anymore unless they've gone through unless they meet the criteria. And it's just, it's great. It's really nice. They didn't have to mandate it. We're supporting it. So it's a way to go about making sure that your people are trained. And there's a CE component too, a community component to it too. So those are the pieces. I think that's it, right? I think I'm out of time. I got 2 minutes. Do you have any questions in 2 minutes? And I'll stick around if you have other questions. Are there any questions or anything that you were hoping to get out of this that you did not get that I can email you or get into a conversation with you about? No questions. That's not a good thing.
Okay, will you be my dean?
What college are you at?
College of Marin.
Absolutely, I'm going. See you next week. I'm actually going to be there in 2 weeks for 3 days. I'm really looking forward to that. And I was there about a month ago.
Very positive feedback, by the way.
We had a ball. You guys are great. And I do that. I can come through that one and come to your college and do training, or Mike, I can do it. Sometimes Mike and I are going together. We're coming together for that, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's some things on this site, by the way, that are from the DE coordinators piece. So you can go in and take a look at that. Our substantive change report is there. I wanted to show you our mission statement. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do that real quick because I want you to see one phrase out of it. Where's my PowerPoint? I hate PowerPoint. I know it's a lot of reading, but the thing that I want you to see, this is our mission statement, and that's one of those questions, and that's one of the questions the ACCJC will ask you, and that's the statement that I want you to notice.
And everybody, I'm going to flip up for those people online, do fill out the survey for today's session,
which is archived. And there's also the blog, and I also started a forum for this session. I started it yesterday morning, I think, and I'll put this link to this website there as well, and you can share it with whomever. I designed this, but you can use it as you want to, as long as if you change it, you take my name off it. If you don't change it,